Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about a piece of technology that completely redefined speed, power, and even society thousands of years ago. It wasn't just a vehicle. You could honestly call it the world's first supercar.
So, let me start with a question for you. When you think Bronze Age, your mind probably jumps straight to, well, bronze, right? You think of swords and armor and tools. But what if the single most disruptive technology of that whole era wasn't a metal at all, but a machine?
Turns out, the answer is a piece of tech so far ahead of its time that it was basically a technological singularity, the first real automotive system in human history. We are talking, of course, about the light, spoked wheel war chariot.
Now, to really get why this was such a big deal, you can't just think of it as a fancy cart. You have to see it as a complete system, a whole platform of cutting-edge technologies, all working together for one single purpose: speed.
So what went into this system? Well, archaeologists have a name for it: the chariot complex. And it wasn't just one invention. It was this perfect storm of three huge innovations coming together at once: brand new material science, a revolution in biotechnology, and new ways of organizing labor on an industrial scale. All right, so every car needs an engine, right? But the engine for the chariot, well, it was alive. And you couldn't just go out and grab any old horse from the steppe. No, you basically had to build one from the ground up.
And just look at the difference here. On the left, you've got your standard issue wild horse of the time, bad temper, no stamina, basically useless. But on the right, you have the DOM2 lineage. This thing was a custom-built biological engine, genetically engineered for a stronger back, better tolerance for the stress of battle, and the ability to just keep running.
Okay, so this leads to a pretty obvious question, one that actually bugged historians for a long time. If you've got this amazing new high-performance horse, why go through all the trouble and expense of building a whole vehicle? Why not just, hop on its back and ride? The answer is something we can call the centaur problem. First off, even these new and improved horses were still kind of small. Their backs just weren't strong enough to carry a fully armed soldier for very long. Second, the steering, the horse bits, were pretty primitive. You just couldn't get the fine control you needed in a chaotic battle. So the chariot, it was this brilliant engineering hack. It completely bypassed the horse's biological weaknesses by putting all the weight onto the axle, which created a perfectly stable, mobile platform for an archer.
So, you've got your biological engine sorted out. The next challenge is building the chassis. And this is where we see a huge leap in mechanical engineering. The absolute game changer here was the spoked wheel, which first showed up with the Sintashta culture out on the Eurasian steppe. This thing was revolutionary. It replaced those heavy, solid disc wheels with a super lightweight structure that cleverly used tension instead of compression. That change slashed the vehicle's weight and even acted as a kind of primitive suspension. It's what turned a clunky farm wagon into a high-speed weapon. And once this technology got out there, different cultures started putting their own spin on it. Take the Egyptians, for example. They became absolute masters of lightweight design. Their New Kingdom chariot was the ultimate sports car, a sleek platform for a mobile archer that weighed only about 30 kilograms. That's about the same as 3 modern racing bikes. But then you have the Hittites over in Anatolia. They took that exact same core technology and went in a completely different direction. They didn't build a sports car, they built a tank. A heavy, robust, armored truck designed to carry more people and literally smash into enemy formations. And this table just lays out the difference perfectly. Just look at the axle position alone. The Egyptians stuck it way at the back for maximum high-speed stability, which is exactly what you want for a firing platform. The Hittites, on the other hand, centered the axle so it could better balance the weight of a 3-man crew. These design choices tell you everything about how they plan to fight. Agile, long-range attacks versus a heavy, close-quarters charge. So you have this high-performance machine, and you have its biological engine. It needs a service schedule, right? A precise training program. And here's the absolutely wild part. We actually have the original owner's manual. This right here is a direct quote from a set of clay tablets written around 1400 BCE. They were written by a master horse trainer from Mitanni named Kikkuli, and it is, without a doubt, the world's very first guide to sports science and animal conditioning.
Kikkuli's Text lays out this incredibly modern 214-day interval training program. It's got distinct phases for building strength, then endurance, then pure power. I mean, it even includes sophisticated concepts we're familiar with today, like active recovery, making the horses swim to work their cardio without stressing their joints. It's amazing stuff. Okay, so we've got a custom-built biological engine and a high-tech chassis. The big question is, what did one of these Bronze Age supercars actually set you back? Well, in New Kingdom Egypt, the sticker price for just the vehicle, and we're not even talking about the horses yet, was about 8 dabins of silver. Yeah, but what does 8 dabins even mean, right? It's just a number. To really get a feel for how much this was, we need to translate that into its real-world purchasing power. Okay, get this. One chariot was worth the same as a whole herd of about 5 cows. We're talking about an enormous capital investment. It took over 600 hours of highly specialized labor just to build one. This was absolutely not a weapon for your average foot soldier. And that crazy price tag, it ended up creating this brand new social class, the Marianu. These guys were the elite of the elite. Think of them like the Bronze Age's fighter pilots or knights. Their entire identity, their power, their status, it was all tied up in owning and operating this one machine. They were, for all intents and purposes, the world's first supercar owners club. But here's the thing about technology. No matter how dominant it is, its time always comes to an end. And what's really interesting about the chariot is that it wasn't replaced because it stopped working or became obsolete. It was replaced by something that could do the same job, but was just a lot cheaper. The real tipping point was better steering, specifically the invention of the metal snaffle bit. That little piece of tech finally gave a single rider enough control to handle a horse and use a weapon at the same time. And just like that, cavalry was possible. From there, the economic math was just brutal. To get one archer on the battlefield, the chariot system needed 2 horses, 2 men, and that whole expensive vehicle. Cavalry did the exact same thing with 1 horse and 1 man. Same firepower, literally half the cost. Game over. So the chariot didn't just vanish, it kind of retired. It became a ceremonial vehicle, a status symbol. You could call it an Assyrian Porsche. But its true legacy isn't sitting in a museum. The chariot is the first chapter in humanity's multi-millennial obsession with engineering speed. It was the first time we combined biology and mechanics to go faster than nature ever intended. And it's a story that continues with every single car on the road today.